What's up, world? Here for a brand new episode of Dreamchasers with my friend Lauren Padula. What's up, Lauren?
Hey Lucas, how are you?
Fantastic, thank you. Lauren runs the November project in San Diego, yoga teacher, also runs running classes for anyone who's keeping track of that. She keep a running tally, and she's just involved in so many different activities. And I bought Lauren on the Dream Chaser show today because she's inspirational, full of great messages. And then, more importantly than anything, is going through the journey of a dream chaser, which is anyone who is on a road to create a dream reality for themselves, or basically looking to make their life great. So glad that Lauren and I are actually reconnecting. We did an episode, and then I decided that we should do another one because so much has happened for both of us in the last, I think it was like 6 months ago, we did an episode. So Lauren, why don't you just start telling the folks about you and everything you got going on?
Sure. So I kind of wear about a million different hats in San Diego. Like you said, I lead the November Project here in San Diego, which is a free fitness movement that I know we're going to talk about a little bit later. By trade, I'm a physical therapist, so I have my doctorate in physical therapy. I sort of went down the traditional physical therapy path for maybe the first 6 years after graduate school. And then about a year ago, decided I wanted to see what else was out there and explore some different versions of what I was currently doing. So I also coach runners, like you said, for all sorts of different distances, anything from like couch to 5K to marathon training. I became a yoga teacher this summer. I primarily teach yoga for athletes and yoga for runners. And through that, I got connected with a bunch of different studios here in San Diego, and I also teach anatomy to yoga teachers. So that is sort of currently how I'm taking my formal education and applying it to what I love to do. And what I am doing right now is taking that anatomy education, bringing it to the yoga community, the people who are being trained as yoga teachers, to make them better yoga teachers. I'm also a Lululemon ambassador, so I do a lot with Lululemon and their community and their outreach into their communities. So yeah, a little bit of everything, and it's fun for sure.
Wow, that's so awesome. So tell us about that moment where you were going through the formal education mode and then you decide to branch off from that.
Yeah, so whenever I think about kind of where that shift started, what that moment was that started to shift things for me, it was the moment I decided to start November Project. And I didn't
Mm,
know it at the time. I knew that what NP was doing in the world, 2.5 years ago, was something awesome. I never in a million years imagined it would be what it is right now, but I knew that if I brought it to San Diego, it could be something really important for our community. So when I decided to start it, that sort of set me down this pathway of looking at the world a little bit differently, not having to follow like the same social norms that everybody else follows. And you've been to NP, so you know what that means. In our culture, it means hugging people. It means saying the F word at 6:30 in the morning,
heck yeah.
breaking some of those like very typical social rules. And so by starting NP, I kind of already started down that pathway of like breaking the normal pattern that people follow. And it wasn't until about a year ago I had become a Lululemon ambassador, largely in part to my November Project role, but also, being involved in run clubs and other different community organizations. And once that happened, these doors just kind of started to open, and people would ask me, oh, can you coach me for this marathon? Or, oh, I have a friend that wants to run this race. Do you think you could help her? And when those requests started to come in and I began to realize that there was a lot of opportunities that might come my way in the next year or two, I sort of had a decision to make. I could say yes to some of them and no to a lot of them because I wouldn't be able to take them on with my current job. Or I could leave this really stable, lucrative, great position that would always be there in the future if I ever needed it again, to like full, wholeheartedly 2 feet jump into going down that different path and being able to say yes to all of those different opportunities. and I chose that path. I like to say I feel like I'm pretty lucky because I know that there's a safety net of physical therapy underneath me all the time, and I don't think everybody has that reassurance that they can go back to doing what they were doing before if they ever had to in the future. But people will always get older, and people will always get injured, and there will always be physical therapists that are needed. So it was sort of a no-brainer decision, definitely one that I've never looked back on and regretted. But it was kind of an easy decision to make because I knew that, like, if shit hit the fan, I could go back to what I was doing before and everything would be okay. Even though, luckily, knock on wood, so far I haven't had to do that.
Yeah, I feel that. Well, it's certainly taking a risk starting any new endeavor. Let's give the people some background on November Project. So we talked about this awesome fitness movement. Tell them where it got started, how it migrated to San Diego, where it's going.
Cool. So November Project started in November of 2011 in Boston. It was started by two dudes that used to be pretty high level collegiate athletes that had sort of gone into the real world and realized that it was hard to stay in shape. It was hard to stay motivated when the weather got crappy, when gyms were expensive, when you didn't have a team behind you like you do in normal athletics. And so they made a commitment to each other for the month of November that they were going to show up, they were going to use their city as a playground, and they were going to work out outdoors every single day. And if they could make it through the month of November, they could make it through anything. So they did, and they found that their friendship got better, their fitness got better. So they started to tell a few people who told a few people, and all of a sudden they had 20, 40, 100, 200 people showing up to run these workouts with them on Wednesday mornings. And from there, it started to spread, and it spread at first through people who had lived in Boston, or the brother of the co-founder loved this idea of using each other as accountability as opposed to using money by paying a gym membership as your accountability. Because we all know how well that works. Everybody buys their gym membership in January, and by March, you're not going anymore. Mm-hmm. But when you're accountable to your friends and you tell people, like, hey, I'm going to see you on Wednesday, I want to show up and spend time with you, you're much more likely to show up. And so they created this community built on free fitness as its primary platform, but then also built on hugs and on smiles and on laughs and on sweat and on, this idea that anybody can go out there and get their ass kicked and laugh while doing it and come out the other side being a better person. So I had gone to school with the two founders, so I kind of knew of them. When I started seeing things pop up on my Facebook, 2.5 years ago, I was like, what is this thing? They spray paint their shirts and they smile a lot and they work out in the winter in Boston. Like, what is it? And it seemed really cool. So I got in touch with them. Myself and two of the other girls that I went to school with decided we wanted to bring it to San Diego. So we did that in October of 2013. We were the 5th, 6th, and 7th tribe to come on. We came on with Washington, D.C. and Denver at the same time. And in the past just over 2 years, we've gone from being those 7 tribes to being 26 tribes currently. I think there are like 5 or 6 in Canada and 21 in the U.S. And we are bringing on 4 more by the end of the year. So we'll start 2016 having 30 tribes. And I can't name any names, but 2 of those tribes are on a different continent completely.
What?
Yeah, pretty cool, right?
Oh,
and they speak different languages. So we're going to hit this really cool point that we haven't hit yet, where not only, are we in America and in Canada, which is kind of like America, but now we're going to be in these completely different countries with completely different languages that still get and understand and feel the vibe that November Project is and why it's important for their cities, which I think speaks a lot to the movement itself and what it's doing in different communities.
That's so awesome. So eventually, when it's in enough countries, we're going to have to get a video up of all the people in different languages saying, fuck yeah. Yes,
definitely. I assume that you can translate that to almost every language, right?
Yeah. Well, they say the sky is blue, but you never know. So
that's true. That is true.
Tell the audience about your experience actually starting November Project and what that was like to get that off the ground. You're doing that for free, let me go back and reemphasize for free.
Yeah. So, at its core, it's a free fitness movement, and none of the leaders of any specific city have ever been paid for what we do. And we love it that way. That's kind of what it's built on, is this idea that we're there for everybody else because we want to be there, because we want to see our community get better. We want to see our people get faster. We want to see them get happier, not because somebody's paying us to be there. And that's a huge distinction. So starting it, I mean, I can look back on it now and say maybe I was a little small-minded or naive when I agreed to start it, but that is only half true, because I don't think anybody could have seen it getting as big as it is now. But when I agreed to start it, it was like, oh, this will be cool. We'll get like 30 people to come out, and we'll run around a park on Wednesday mornings at Kate Sessions, and it'll be really fun, and we'll have these new friends, and it'll be a blast. So when we started, there was 5 of us, and it took about the first like 8 weeks until we got that 20 or 30 people, and that was awesome. That was like, okay, maybe we're onto something. Like, these are people we don't know. They're not just our friends coming out to support us. Like, these are completely random people who are awesome human beings that just want to be here. And that was that first moment of like, well, shit, like if we can get 30, why can't we find 30 more other awesome people that also need to be here and want to benefit from this? So, 30 grew to 60, 60 grew to 90, 90 grew to 140. And I think our top number, we had about 190 at our yearbook photo day, where we took pictures of everybody this year. Yeah. So we grew from having, that core group of 5 at a Wednesday morning at Kate Sessions Park to just over 2 years later, almost tipping 200. And we work out twice a week in San Diego on Monday mornings and Wednesday mornings. And, it's the best group of people you could ever imagine. It's the most varied group of people you can ever imagine. You're going to get the baby that gets pushed in the stroller, and you're going to get the grandfather that comes out and, walks around and does what he can do and smiles and laughs and hugs just as hard as everybody else. And that's the beauty of it, is it doesn't matter. Everybody can be there.
That's so funny. Well, I think what I like best about what you said is you were naive going into the whole experience. And that's so important for our audience to get, because these are all people who are starting businesses on the road to becoming famous musicians. And when you get into this process, it's so easy to not realize how big of an impact you could have, because you start this beginning not really knowing what's going to happen. And then for you with November Project, 190 people from 5. That's friggin' incredible.
Yeah.
And there's no expectation around that. You just went into the process and had fun with it. And that is one of the hardest things to do when you are chasing your dreams, is to not go in there and not want to make money, and to not want to be popular and all those things. So I'm sure that crossed your mind at some point. So for you, how did you just stay focused on the moment and not get caught up in what you guys weren't doing or all that jazz?
I think it was really important to be naive, because I think if I had known how big it might get, or how many cities it would be in, or what a difference it was going to make in people's lives. I mean, we have tribe members that have been diagnosed with cancer, and November Project San Diego is the only thing that like gets them out of bed and gets them moving and makes them smile while they're going through that type of stuff, So if I had known those things, I think that fear of not performing or not being good enough or not, being the right person to take that on may have stopped me from even accepting the challenge in the first place. So sometimes I think there's a benefit to being naive. That was kind of an aside, but to your question, how do we stay? I just felt like it was important.
No, I agree. I totally agree. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. But to your question about like staying in the moment, especially when it's something that's like a free fitness movement and the end goal isn't to get paid for it, I think it's really helpful to remember those personal stories. For me, November Project's been as much of my personal transformation as it has been everybody else's personal transformations. And so it's the best part of my week. We joke around, oh, it's the best part of everybody's week when they show up. But like, first and foremost, it's the best part of our week. The 3 of us that stand up there and get to lead those workouts and encourage the behavior that we've built in the community that is growing constantly, like that's the best part of my week, is to stand up there. And I get paydays in about a million other ways every week than an actual physical paycheck. And those little paydays are the things that keep you really connected and really motivated to keep doing what you're doing. And they can be everything from, somebody sending me a Facebook message after a workout and saying, hey, that workout was so hard, it kicked my ass, like, thank you. To, the story about the person saying, hey, next Wednesday is my 1-year anniversary of being diagnosed with cancer, and I'd really like it if we could all go to coffee afterwards. And like, to be such an important part of somebody's life is a payday in and of itself. And then you add on all these other cool things. We've gotten to go on trips. Like, I'm leaving for San Francisco on Thursday to go run a trail race with the North Face and a bunch of other November Project tribe members. And you meet all these other people, and you get to go to different places and run different things and experience different experiences that when I said, yeah, I'll lead this free fitness thing for 20 people, like, never in a million years crossed my mind that these would be opportunities. And you never know what they're going to be. And it feels like every day, every week, every month, every year, because now we're going into our, third year of doing this, there's something new and different and big and awesome and small and awesome that still blows my mind. And those are the things that keep us like, all right, what can we do next? Where can we go next? What can we do that's fun? How can we make this better? How can we continue to grow what we're growing? And it doesn't get old. It doesn't feel like a boot camp. It doesn't feel like a gym. It doesn't feel like a responsibility. Instead, it's fun because it's the best part of what I do every week.
I like what you said about focusing on the transformation and all the personal aspects that you got, rather than thinking about all the other aspects of when you were building November Project up. And what I think is so awesome is the people, right? Like, one of the keys to success is surrounding yourself with good people. And in the age range that we're at, it's really hard to find good people who actually want to be successful, want to get out of their comfort zones and do things out of the norm. And I think November Project attracts those sorts of people. So it's nice for me to be able to go to that sort of place. And for anyone who's not in San Diego or is in San Diego, I'd highly encourage you to check it out for that reason. I'm going to steal a quote from John Vroman here, who runs a podcast called The Front Row, which is all about how people go from the back row to the front row in your lives. And you really got to think about who you're putting in your front row of your life, because if these are the people who can really push you to the next level, and Lauren, I would consider this, you've definitely pushed me to some degree, which I appreciate. If you don't have those sorts of people, then you can't get better as an individual and get to the level where you need to be.
For sure. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I'm glad. I'm happy to push and be pushed. And there's that old quote that, like, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so choose those 5 people really wisely. And I feel super lucky to be able to say that, like, I feel like I'm the average of the 190 people that I spend those times with. And they're all fucking awesome people, and every single one of them brings something amazing to the table that, like, 3 years ago I didn't know existed. So it's pretty cool.
Okay, so we've kind of covered like NP Lauren. So like, let's hop into yoga Lauren. So summer was happening, and then you decided to take on being a yoga teacher. Take us through that.
Yeah, so it was sort of accidental, but I think a lot of good things in life end up being sort of accidental. And it was something where it was on my like 5-year goal sheet. Lululemon is an awesome company in a lot of respects, but one of them is they really encourage you to set goals in your personal life, your physical, athletic life, and in your career life. And they encourage you to set 1-year, 5-year, and 10-year goals, and be really, smart, to the point, dated goals and all of that. And so taking a yoga teacher training had been on my 5-year goal sheet when I had sort of sat down and met with them to set my goals initially. And I've practiced yoga for about 12 or 13 years since I was in college. I practiced to, stay in good shape and to chill out a little bit and kind of balance the running that I was doing. And I practiced about 3 times a week on average. And over the past year or so, it's gotten a little bit more serious. I turned 30 this year. So I decided that for the 30 days before my 30th birthday, I was going to take a yoga class every day. And then my 30th yoga class was going to be on my 30th birthday. And it would just sort of be like a little challenge for myself. Like, can I make time in my day to take care of my mind and my body and see what happens? And it was super hard, very rewarding, and it was an awesome thing to do. So I kind of had already set down this path of taking yoga a little more seriously without really realizing it. And I had a good friend from Boston move here. She's actually the wife of the November Project co-founder. So her name's Goldie. And Goldie started teaching at a studio in La Jolla. And they did a teacher training this summer. It was a 3-week intensive teacher training. It was Monday through Saturday, all day long for 3 weeks in a row. And they had a bunch of people flying out from all over the country to take it. And her and the studio owner sort of hit me up and said, hey, we like what you're doing. We like, the community you've built. We think you'd be a great yoga teacher. We'd love for you to come take our teacher training and then possibly teach at our studio afterwards. And it really was kind of serendipitous. I had those 3 weeks in the middle of the summer that I didn't have anything else planned, that couldn't be moved around. And so I sort of went for it. And I said yes. And then I panicked because anybody who's ever taken a teacher training knows that it's not only like an investment of your time and your, physical practice, but it's also a pretty good financial investment. That's definitely worth it. But, I think most people who listen to your podcast can relate to the fact that making a giant financial investment when you relatively recently decided to go out on your own is a little bit scary. And I went for it anyway. And while this was happening, unbeknownst to me, one of the girls in our November Project tribe, her name's Jenna, she set up a GoFundMe page. And the November Project tribe funded my entire yoga teacher training.
Holy shit. I know that.
Without me knowing. Yeah. Kind of a funny story. I sort of accidentally found out about it like a week before they were supposed to tell me, which was really entertaining. But, they had gone out of their way to all contribute to sending me to my teacher training, which was really cool. And they threw me a little party and, a chance to say thank you to everybody. And I was really overwhelmed and really uncomfortable. Didn't really know what to say to anybody aside from thank you, but it obviously was an awesome thing for them to do. And really helped solidify that was the right decision I was making. So teacher training itself was awesome and intense and crazy and weird. And I made these great connections with myself and with the teachers and with the other students that were there. And then at the end of July, I was a teacher. And I was like, okay, now what do you do? And just like anything else, it takes a while. You got to figure out what your style is. Who are you as a yoga teacher? And obviously, you're the same person, just different facets of yourself. So I can't be the same person at 6:29 in the morning getting everybody to scream fuck yeah as I can at 6:29 in the evening teaching a vinyasa yoga class and taking people into their deepest relaxation of their day. There has to be different facets of who I am and how my personality comes through. But I think it's really important to keep your personality and not try to be something you're not try to be a yoga teacher and, spout yoga things because that's what you're supposed to do. You have to speak from the heart. And it's been a really fun journey to figure that out. It's been interesting and great and scary. And sometimes it goes awesome. And I walk out of a yoga class and I'm like, yes, nailed it. And sometimes like yesterday, I walk out of a class and I'm like, well, messed that one up today. Couldn't figure out my left and my right. Music didn't work, whatever happens. But it's been a really cool, self-learning experience. And it's been really fun to be able to bring it to my November Project people, the people that I see in a different capacity, the people that I'm usually motivating and pushing and driving and, good-heartedly yelling at in the mornings. It's been really fun to get to see a different side of them and introduce them to something a little more chill and a little more mental and a little more spiritual than, yeah, I mean, I guess fuck yeahs are pretty spiritual, but in a different way. So it's been really cool to get to introduce them to something a little different as well.
Yeah, well, there are two pieces from that I want to dive into. So one is the financial investment piece, because I want to know more of what was going on in your mind before the GoFundMe, before you knew, to help our viewers understand how you took that plunge.
It was something where it sounds so cliche, but like the stars had kind of aligned so well for the teacher training to fall into where it did, that
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of felt like it was like I had to do it. You know, I'd had enough people say, hey, you should really do this. You should be a yoga teacher. You would be great at it, combined with, you know, when the teacher training was and how they approached me and the fact that they wanted me to teach at the studio afterwards, and the fact that I really respected them and as teachers and wanted to learn from them. And so the decision itself was like, well, this feels like I have to do it. Like, it feels like the universe is saying, like, this is your next move and you should really do this. Even though it was never really on my radar, I definitely didn't think it was going to become my primary, you know, source of income or time or occupation at that point in where I was and kind of venturing out on my own. And I looked at my bank account and said, like, the money's in there. I can make it happen. Like, I might have to, you know, live a little differently for the next few months and think about things more, but like, I can do it, and I'm not going to be eating ramen. So I should do it because it feels like I should do it. And yeah, it was definitely a decision. You know, it's definitely a weird decision, but it was like, I'm not going to starve. The roof is still going to be over my head. Like, this is a worthy investment that will pay itself off.
Yeah, it's funny. I can totally relate, because I just decided to join a CrossFit gym a few weeks back, and then I've been investing in my pods. And so when you start to do things like that, you start looking up at the ceiling before you go to sleep a little more than you were used to, because you're like, it's for your good, right? But it's something they don't tell you about, because once you put your skin in the game like that, it's a totally different gig, and it's the only way to really get results, though. Like that you can't be around the bush with that. Like, until your skin is in the game, you really don't have the motivation to stick with it.
True. And, you know, I think like most other decisions that you make, or at least people that are willing to take the risks to go after whatever it is they're dreaming after, like you trust your intuition. You have to trust your intuition. And it helps make some of those decisions for you.
Yeah, and you definitely have to cultivate that, and realize that even if you quote unquote mess up with your intuition, that's just part of the learning process, right? I mean, we're never perfect as human beings, so it's just a constant refinement process. And that links to the other point I wanted to get into, which is the adaptability part of being who you have to be at different times. Because a lot of us, if you're a business owner, you can get stuck saying, oh, I'm only a marketing guy, but sales run your business. Or I'm a musician, I can only sing. But you have to be able to promote your band as well. And there's all these different things that people put themselves in boxes. And I think what you said is so great, because people need to understand that you have to be able to adapt to wherever you need to go, and be able to take that to be successful, because you can't just be one thing and be successful. Well, you can be in that one thing, but there's a whole different concept that you have to be open to making possible, like changing up your personality if you have to.
Yeah, and I think what's most important is you have to stay true to whatever it is you're going after in the big picture. Like, so I wear 3 different hats or 4 different hats, right? I lead November Project, I'm a run coach, I'm a yoga teacher, and I teach anatomy. And oh yeah, I'm also a physical therapist, and I'm also this, and I'm also that. But like, what I do at the core of it all is I connect people. So like, my purpose in life and all that I want to do in life is connect people. I want to connect people to their community. That's where November Project comes into play. I want to connect them to each other. That's also November project, but that's also Run Club. And now you're talking yoga. I want to connect them to themselves. And that's definitely where yoga is huge in what I do. And I want them to connect to other things that they might not ever connect with without me being there to be that catalyst. So if I think about it in terms of like, what am I doing? You know, that job, oh, what do you do? That whole question that we get asked all the time, what do you do? I connect people to those different things. How I connect them is different. Sometimes I connect them at 6:30 in the morning, and sometimes I connect them at 6:30 in the evening, but I'm connecting people all day long. That's what my job is. And that's what my passion is, and that's what my dharma is, and that's what I'm here to do. And if I can remember that, that makes those other hats a lot more similar and easier to interchange. Because at the heart of it all, I'm still doing the same thing. The delivery of it might just be a little bit different.
That's really cool. I feel the same way about myself. I also feel like I'm here to connect people, and that's why I'm running this Dreamchasers podcast platform, is to connect people with other like-minded people. So I can totally relate to that. And to get back to some of the conversation we were having earlier around getting through the challenges and opportunities that we all have. So for you right now, what would you say is the biggest challenge you're dealing with in terms of your November project experience, or maybe balancing everything at once? Like, tell us about what that would be.
I would say right now, my biggest challenge is patience. It's having patience with what I'm building, but also having patience with myself. NP is probably my least of my challenges right now, which is awesome. It's like doing great and rolling on its own, and it's got this great momentum going. But the other 3 or 4 things I'm working on, having that patience to know that it takes time to build a yoga following, and it takes time to build a successful website, and it takes time to build your circles in certain ways. I'm not the most patient person, period. So having patience with waiting for those things to continue to pick up steam and continue to do what they're doing already, but I'd like them to be doing it faster. So having patience with that, knowing that the patience is important and the time is important, and it's okay that it's not going to happen overnight, but also having patience with myself. And I would say, especially as far as yoga is concerned, knowing that, like, I've been teaching yoga for it's December 1st today. I've been teaching yoga for 3 months, 4 months. So having the patience to know that, like, classes like last night that don't go perfect, they're going to happen, and it's okay. And I shouldn't expect to be where I want to be, or where the people that I admire are as a yoga teacher, because, I haven't been there for 10 years. I've been there for 3 months. But having the patience to not get too down on myself or frustrated with myself when I'm not being as perfect as I would like to be is definitely a struggle. And so I would say both of those fronts of patience are where I'm having kind of my biggest challenge right now.
I can totally relate to the whole patience gig, because you just want everything to happen and be perfect and all that jazz. So I saw your post the other night on Facebook about your website, and I want you to tell the audience more about what you're looking for, because maybe someone in our community can assist you with what you're looking for there.
Yeah. So I've been building a website. It's called runsynergistic.com. It is kind of like a dual part website. It's part content. Think like Runner's World, meets stories and reviews and blog posts from your everyday runner. So it's not just your elite runners, it's not just your professional runners and their advice and what happens in their world, but it's also the same types of things coming from the guy next door, who maybe is more similar of a runner to you than Meb is. And then the second part of the website is a subscription website that is built on the idea that in running, just like in life, the sum of all the parts is greater than the whole sometimes. So to be a good runner, it requires more than running. It can require things like exercise and yoga and nutrition and coaching and community. So the subscription part of the website gives you access to all of those things: an online yoga studio, an online exercise library, access to a nutritionist, access to coaching, access to a Facebook group where you can meet other people in your community and in other communities and bounce ideas off of them. And what I'm looking for is somebody with a sports nutrition background that wants to take on the nutrition aspect of that, as well as multiple running coaches, preferably, that are interested in interacting with the group in kind of a social media setting, being able to bounce in and out of a Facebook chat room and answer questions and give advice, but also who want to take on coaching clients. So when runners sign up for the website and they say, yeah, I'm running a marathon in 6 months and I want to hire a coach to coach me through the marathon, I'm looking for people who want to take that on as well.
So for that sport nutrition person, they specifically would just be guiding whoever signs up on like what you should eat to run a marathon.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything from, popping in and out of a Facebook group with tips and tricks, and these are the 5 best foods you should eat, and these are the things you should avoid, to, having like a real nutrition program that they're creating for a client.
Okay. The wheels are turning, because I'm not sure if this would be a good fit, but I'll run it by my buddy and see how that could align.
Perfect. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And I'm also looking for somebody who builds websites, just to kind of take a look at what it is and how the functionality can be, optimized and that sort of thing. I mean, I built it. I used WordPress and I built the website, and I'm actually pretty impressed with how it's turned out, because website building is not a forte of mine. But, it does get a little bit complicated, especially with the membership aspect of it. And I know that I want it, obviously, to be the best product. So I would like somebody who does that to come in and kind of look over everything and do what they need to do to make it as good as it can be.
My colleague, Mike Dobransky, who actually designed my website, ended up looking really awesome, would be someone I could introduce you to.
Cool.
And I can make that offline when you get off the call, have him take a look. He can shoot you, maybe a design in that, and we'll go from there. I think he could be very helpful and also a fellow. So you'll like him. He's a good guy.
Awesome. Thank you.
You got it. All right. So we were talking a little bit earlier about the event you got coming up on December 13th, Bodies in Motion. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about Bodies in Motion, what that is, and then what the event is going to be about on the 13th for all the San Diego and even non-San Diego people. Hey, you can come too.
Exactly. So Bodies in Motion was an idea that was based on a concept that happened in Boston. In Boston, they had this concept called More Movement. And the idea behind More Movement and Bodies in Motion as well is to get people out, get them out of their comfort zone, out of their house, exercising in their community and meeting people. Sounds a little similar to November Project. Idea was from the same brains as November Project, so that makes sense. So we did a Bodies in Motion 1.0 in January, and Bodies in Motion in January was a run to yoga event. The catch was you didn't know where you were going to be doing yoga. So you showed up somewhere at 10 a.m. with your running shoes on and your yoga mat in tow. We shoved all the yoga mats in the back of a pickup truck. I led people on a 3-mile run to their secret location, and when they got to their secret location, their yoga mats were all set up, and 2 of the other yoga ambassadors for Lululemon led them through yoga with a live DJ. The secret location ended up being Mission Brewery in East Village in San Diego, which was really cool. And then people hung out afterwards and had some beers and got to meet each other. And, it sort of was a chance for yogis to get off their mat and runners to get out of their shoes at the same time and cross paths with each other. And it was really fun, super successful. We had a blast with it. So we decided to bring it back. So this Sunday, the 13th, is Bodies in Motion 2.0. The twist on it this time is it's a triathlon with a twist. Ooh. So it's called Run, Rock, Restore. You're going to go for a 30-minute run. You're going to do a 30-minute indoor boot camp, and then you're going to do a 45-minute yoga class. It's at Mission Brewery again because we love them and they're amazing and their space is really cool. And we'll have a live DJ, we'll have photographers, we'll have some vendors there with stuff. But we wanted to introduce a charity aspect as well. So when we did it in January, the charity we benefited was the Challenge Athletes Foundation. And they're an amazing group that everybody should look up when they stop listening to this podcast. And this time in December, we decided to go something along the lines of the holidays. So we're doing Toys for Tots. So the profits will go to Toys for Tots, and everybody's encouraged to bring an unwrapped toy. We'll do a Toys for Tots collection at the event and donate everything from there too. So it'll be a really fun event. It's just a chance to get out and get active and sweat on a Sunday morning with, 100 people that maybe you know a few of, but most of them you probably never met before, and get a chance to connect, do something a little different. Nobody's ever done boot camp in a brewery, so it'll be a chance to do that. Get your yoga on and then hang out afterwards for some good brews and some good music and some good vibes.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that sounds like a fun event.
Yeah, super fun. Everybody has a blast there. And if you haven't been to Mission, it's a really cool space in East Village. And they're great in, being super generous and donating their space to let us use it to do some fun things.
I'll vouch for that. Yoga in a brewery is a pretty unique experience.
You came to do Mo Yoga.
Yeah, I came to both. I came to do Mo Yoga and I came to the first Bodies in Motion. So you had me at Mission Brewery and yoga.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to get guys to sign up for yoga when you promise that there will be girls in yoga pants.
That's like the trifecta.
Exactly.
Nice. Right on. Well, Lauren, I've really enjoyed talking with you. And to wrap things up, what would you say is the one piece of advice that you know now that you wish you knew when you started chasing your dreams?
That's tough. I know I have a good one. I know now, and I wish I had known when I started all of this, that it was going to have to be a daily reminder why I was doing this. It's really easy to get caught up in things like money or the idea of success or the comparison in your head with where you are and where you think you are. And when you start down that path and that becomes what you focus on, it completely changes what you're doing in the world and how you come across and how the world reacts to you and what opportunities open up to you. And when you come back to remembering why you're doing what you're doing and your ultimate goal and what that dream was that you decided to chase, those other things start to fall in line. And I don't think I knew that it was going to have to be something I'd have to remind myself about as much. And it's, we're bombarded a lot with all of those other ideas of being successful, quote unquote, and making enough money. And, how is it going? And are you doing this yet? And are you doing that yet? And if you get caught up in that, it's definitely something easy to do and you travel down a different path than you want to. So I now know how important it is to stay true to what my original goal and dream was, and that when I do that, everything else really falls into line much better.
I love that. So start with your why and focus on that every day.
Yeah. And there's an awesome TED talk about that, about, starting with your why and how that makes such a huge difference. And that's something that I watch on occasion when I need that reminder.
I'll link that in the show notes. Simon Sinek. # boss mode.
Love it. I love it.
Okay. All right, Lauren. Well, it was great talking to you, and I will look forward to seeing you soon.
Sounds good. Will I see you tomorrow morning at November Project?
Why you thought about that? Am I gonna verbal on the pod? Where is it tomorrow morning?
Balboa Park. The
Balboa
Fountain
Park.
by Balboa Park, 6:29 in the morning.
I'll be there. I just verbal on my podcast, so now I'm
Woo!
accountable to like 100+ people.
That's like the most epic verbal we've had in quite a long time. So we'll see you tomorrow morning.
All right, that sounds good.
All right, Lucas, have a good night.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye.